the Business Leaders Legacy Podcast, the show where we go behind the scenes with business leaders to uncover their vision, strategies, and challenges they face along the way. My name is Chris Bruner. I'm the CEO of Simple AI Solutions and the host of today's podcast. Today, I'm excited to introduce Richard Miller, the founder and president of Richard Miller Custom Homes, featured in D Magazine as one of Dallas's top custom builders. Richard, can you please introduce yourself and tell our listeners a little about you, your business, and the customers you serve?
Sure. Thanks, Chris, and thanks for the opportunity. So I've been building here in Dallas for more than 20 years, and we've kind of worked our way up to the architect masterpiece modern type of builds, high-end modern builds. We enjoy doing cool projects for cool clients, and we see ourselves as a tour guide through a successful home build. A lot of homeowners don't realize the traps that they can fall into without a proper guide. And we take our reputation and our reputation seriously, and we want to build awesome homes and guide homeowners through a successful project so that they're just as happy with us when they meet us as at the end.
Yeah, no, that's neat. That's really cool. Yeah, so Richard, you've built a reputation as someone who bridges modern design with high performance. How do you balance creativity with construction realities?
Sure. So high performance is really something that is it was a luxury product, and still in a way is a luxury product. There's no magic wand. If you want extra cool stuff, it usually costs. But high performance is actually via code, the increases in code over time, becoming more and more strict, and just the knowledge being out there of what a high performance build is. It's starting to move into lower and lower segments of the market as a standard.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's interesting. Yeah, it definitely it seems as technology advances, there's definitely a lot more out there nowadays, especially in the, residential homes and so yeah, no, that's really cool.
Yeah, if you're a builder, let's say if you're building production homes, I started building production homes, building 20 or 30 homes at a time. And if you're a production home builder and you're not interested in building science or haven't educated yourself there, you're going to quickly find yourself behind the curve as those types of the specifications for high performance builds are starting to just become more and more standard.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's very interesting. So Richard, tell us, what's something about running a custom home business that most people wouldn't realize from the outside?
So running a custom home business is so I see myself as kind of the buffer between the chaos of what is the residential construction industry and trades and the variability there, and a luxury product and a luxury experience, right? So you come to me and I take that chaos with my experience and with the trades that I have developed and filtered through the years, and I'm able to give you a luxury high performance home that you're happy with, that you get a good value with, that's optimized to what you value. We'll spend the money on exactly what's important to you and maybe save money in other places. So I take the chaos of that world, and transform it into a luxury experience for a client.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's really neat. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's neat. I wish I lived in Dallas so I could have you build my home.
I wish you did too.
Okay, so moving a little bit to just kind of trends within the industry. There's lots of buzz around AI and technology in home building. everything from design to visualizing, the plan to the project scheduling. Do you see that as a fit in your world yet?
Absolutely, and I'm already integrating as much as I can. Now, I'm not I'm not your standard builder in that I'm a lot more technology forward than a lot of builders that I know. So even at the beginning of my career, I on nights and weekends took a Fortune 500 home builder from the fax machine to the tablet PC when those first came out, just because I just couldn't stand in 2004, we were still sending faxes as a main form of communication. Some builders are scared of email, but I embrace AI. I see it as a super useful tool, and I'm already using it in several areas of my business, and interested to learn about any place that I'm not aware that there's a tool that I could integrate.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Yeah, it is pretty wild how much AI is growing and how it's impacting all sorts of different industries. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. Moving to the current state of your business, where you guys are at, which parts of the process, your day to day are running really well right now?
Sure. I think our homeowner experience is pretty refined. We have processes and documentation that kind of go along with that tour guide aspect of the process that both educate the homeowner as far as what the traps are that they could fall into. They're naturally going to feel like going right here, and here's why you need to go left. Um, so those processes and experiences, both from a communication standpoint and a documentation standpoint, right? To make sure that everybody's on the same page regarding, what we've agreed to. That's running uh, fairly smoothly. You know, Managing trades is an art, and and I, as far as, did you ask if things are what's running smoothly or what's not running smoothly?
Well, I was asking what's running smoothly, but then that
Yeah,
kind of leads me into my next question, where if things are, have bottlenecks right now or things that have been challenging.
sure. This is where I've actually brought in AI first. The back end business, accounting and things like that. We're a pretty small company, which is great. We're very very high touch and very nimble. But that back end part of running a business is a place where I first brought in AI in the form of adaptive, which what that does for me is I have my trades send their invoices and financial related stuff to an email address that's automatically uploaded in adaptive. Optical character recognition reads that document, inputs it into my accounting software. And so that saves countless hours of
Yeah,
me typing that stuff in manually. So
yeah.
basically, I just go through, make sure that everything is coded correctly and approve it. And yeah,
Yeah, and that's really cool. That's definitely a big trend that is happening, where a lot of people are just taking those simple automations and just letting AI do it, letting someone review it, making sure it's correct, and then saving 75% of time of what it normally would take. And so,
yeah. I used to use I've used a couple of different project management platforms, and one of the platforms that I used to use, I mean, it would take 15 minutes to properly, input an invoice, and I get, how many of those a week, and the the time that I save using a tool like Adaptive, it just gives me more time to QA the job, right? Manage the trades and give the homeowners a better experience.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's neat. That's good. It's good to stay on top of that stuff. Um, yeah, so in your business, how do you measure success? Is it based on growth? Is it based on revenue, credibility, or is there something else that's most important to you?
We measure success by homeowner trust and homeowner satisfaction. So my homeowner's trust is my single most valuable asset, and builders lose it at their peril. It takes an enormous amount of trust between a homeowner and a builder to successfully complete a project. Most homeowners don't realize how involved the process is, and sometimes they're not prepared, emotionally for what the process looks like. But we know all that we know all that before we start. We've done this hundreds of times successfully with families, and that's why you need a guide.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. That's really cool. Yeah, definitely sounds like you guys have had a lot of experience in that. And it's so important to have that as a top value. And so that's really cool to hear. Um, in regards to when it comes to finding new business, what's your current approach
Mhm.
to generating customers?
For the majority of our time in business, so I've been doing this over 20 years, had this company since 2016, so almost 10 years. It's been referral, so it's been word of mouth. We've also done, we have certain architects that either we have worked with in the past or that we want to work with because of what we see with their work. So sometimes we'll do stuff like take cookies up to the architect's office with a bunch of business
Yeah.
cards, things like that. But it's mostly word of mouth. Um, you know, uh, Somebody said, you guys are the best kept secret in home building in Dallas, which is great.
Yeah.
We yeah, we like to keep it personal.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. And referrals are so important. It's so much easier going into, the conversation when, someone the customer trusts, tells them about you and starting the relationship off that way. So important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So thinking about the future and where Richard Miller Custom Homes is heading, within the next like 6 to 12 months, what are your goals? Where do you guys want to go? What do you want to do?
Sure. Well, we've kind of, consciously over my entire career, we've kind of moved to the harder and cooler stuff, right? And but there's still a couple of frontiers that we'd like to get to. We would love to build, three incredible uh, architect masterpiece modern projects, with the budgets that go with stuff like that, um, versus a larger number of also amazing projects. But we really like to get in, we really like to do the cool little stuff that comes with projects like that, like installing walls of, impossible walls of glass, or making a whole house look like it's floating, right? Those are the kind of nerd projects that I like to get into and execute well. Um, and we would, so there's a few architects in Dallas that we've been knocking on their door and waiting for us to give an opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's one direction that we're going. Not particularly with this entity, but I do have a background in production, so we're also looking at a separate opportunity in the build to rent space, which is more production, which we can do. And that space is looking for a smaller, nimble team that's smaller than a production home builder and less expensive than a commercial contractor. So we're exploring opportunities there as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's neat. In regards to you said three like bigger projects, those, reaching out to the architects and would those still be custom homes or would that be more of commercial buildings?
Well, once you get into the highest end of home building, a lot of the standards are more commercial, but they're still custom homes. They're just custom, custom, custom.
Yeah.
Uh, and honestly, you know, everybody desires a version of that, right? But we're all limited by, the budget that we have for a home. And so it's, in fact, I've never, we've never had a person come to us and say, "Hey, I have this wish list and this budget," and have them match, right? That's part of the guidance that we do, right? Is optimizing that to your budget, giving you exactly what you want without blowing the budget. But I mean, everybody would love if they had an unlimited budget to do, whether it's a small house or a big house, to do something that you see winning national architecture awards and on AIA home tours and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's neat. That's really neat. Um, yeah, so looking in future again, are you looking to are you looking to grow the business by volume, or do you want to stay more selective and go deeper on signature projects?
Mhm. So our brand, Richard Miller Custom Homes, is selective, and want to do, we want to do the hard, cool stuff, right? So by, just by nature, that's going to be selective. It's going to be a smaller number of projects. Right now, we do about 12 projects a year. And I mean, we are selective. And I'm honest with the homeowners, the potential client, the first time I meet them, I'm like, guys, this is a two-way interview. And the reason it's a two-way interview is because my experience is this is going to be a lifetime relationship.
Yeah,
So, so with that, with this brand, we'll remain selective. With the more production stuff that we're exploring under a different brand. Obviously, that's a different animal. That's building for a business, not
yeah,
building for a client that wants a dream home. Yeah.
yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. And so if you could wave a magic wand and fix one reoccurring headache in the business, all right, what would that be?
So this is uh th- this is probably my number one uh, pet peeve, I guess you would call it. But today architects are actually the best architects are actually waking up to the solution to it, which is great. But the problem is this: the previous, the paradigm forever has been, hey, go find an architect and design your house, right? And then when you get finished with the design, you find a builder and or you interview several builders and bid it out or whatever. That's a trap. Um, and of course, homeowners don't see that it's a trap because they don't know what they don't know. But what happens in that situation that is so that is so painful for us is that an architect may be a masterful architect, but there's no way that they can have the experience of what home construction costs over 20 years or track that, right? They've got to focus on architecture. And what happens in the meeting is the homeowner designs their dream home with this architect without a realistic sense of actually how much it's going to cost. And so they may spend upwards of 2 years with some architects, and then they send me the plans, and then they say our budget is X, right? And
Yeah.
I have to be the bad guy,
Mm.
right? I have to go back and tell them, okay, your budget is 1.5 million. The plans that you sent me are a $5 million house,
Mhm.
and that's not a problem that you can solve by reselecting tile,
Yeah.
right? Some people have to go all the way back to the beginning and redraw the shape, right?
Yeah.
Smaller or whatever. We have a solution for that. we can help in that situation, even if you send us that, we can help in that situation. It's kind of an emergency, an emergency situation, right? So
Yes.
we kind of pull out all the stops and are typically able to help the client get where they need to go. But what we prefer is that the homeowners and the best architects are also on board with this. We want to be in that architect in the design meeting as early as possible,
Hmm.
right? Because you can screw up a budget by drawing the wrong foundation shape too big, right? Or whatever. And we can provide immediate guidance to make sure that through the design process, the design, we're going to save you money with value engineer ideas the whole way through, but through the design process, at the end, you have a home that fits your budget and is going to be shovel ready for construction, and the we don't have to do CPR on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that I run into pretty frequently.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. And it's really cool to see you guys come in early in the process,
Hmm.
before what is typical to really kind of guide that process the best to have the best realistic expectations.
Yeah, and I recently started tracking it probably a year and a half ago, but we're typically able to, I mean, on a full size normal project, we're typically able to save the client mid five figures just by having us in the room during design. So
No, that's really
yeah,
cool. That's really cool. Um, well, Richard, I really appreciate you joining on us on the call today.
yeah,
I think the insight you shared was valuable. I think our listeners will enjoy it. And so, one last question, since this is the Business Leaders Legacy podcast, right? And as a business leader and president of Richard Miller Custom Homes, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
yeah. I mean, I strive to be, I'm even though I'm, one of only 10 master builders in Dallas and all that kind of stuff, I'm a student, right? Um, and I have striven to be the best builder that I can be. And so the legacy that I want to leave is one of, when my grandkids drive by a really cool house, they can point to it and say, Grandpa built that.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and when people, think of me, they think of, hey, Richard was a really good builder and a really good trusted guide.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. That's honorable. All right. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the
Again,
opportunity. It's fun.
yeah. Again, to all of our listeners, this is the Business Leaders Legacy Podcast. Thank you for listening.